Well, every week here on CB24 Breakfast, we try to break down stories from the three levels of government with CTV political commentator Scott Reid. He's back in studio this Tuesday. Good to see you, Scott.
Good to see you.
And an interesting topic to start off with this morning. Sophie Grégoire Trudeau has kind of slipped away from the spotlight, but now she's out with a new book. What's your take?
Well, you know, people say, well, what's the political impact of that? Why are you even talking about it? But I'm going to say, to be honest, right? The Prime Minister and his wife separated. It made news, but it didn't have a big impact. Yeah. Now she's back in the spotlight. And clearly, you know, I have no idea. I haven't read the book. By all accounts, it's sort of, you know, how to, you know, connect one soul to another. Not really my jam, you know, lighting my candle, you light my candle, and together we will have more candlelight. But here's what I know. The most obvious comparator is his old man. And in the 1970s, when Margaret Trudeau and Pierre Trudeau split, it created a lot of attention. And when she emerged back into the spotlight, it actually generated a little bit of sympathy for Pierre Trudeau at the time. It certainly draws attention. So if she's decided that she's going to release her book, it's not a tell-all. It's not going to have a bunch of, you know, grisly stuff about, but still, it's going to have a political impact. So people might feel uncomfortable about it. I don't want to root around in his marriage. But I'm telling you right now, keep your eye on this ball, because her reemergence into the public arena is going to translate into the political arena, and that's going to be something to watch. Yeah,
you're right, because really when the sort of the separation happened, there really weren't a lot of questions about it or whatever, but I mean, yeah, it's going to kind of rekindle some of the curiosity, I suppose, around it here. So I guess we'll see how that plays out. I really want to get to this next story because, you know, we understand on Thursday there's potentially a big announcement coming in the province, another EV plant. You know, Premier Doug Ford seems to be all in on this, and not only is he all in on that, but he seems to be going over fairly well with supporters in polling now, right, as well.
Well, yeah, and Premier's numbers are up high. He's got these ads with him like getting in his SUV, you know, buttoning up his jacket. Hey, I'm out there working hard. I'm a, you know, regular fence neighbor, you know, the backyard fence neighbor and all that kind of stuff. So that's going well. He's got negative ads against Bonnie Crombie, so all that stuff. But here's the thing that I think is so fascinating about this big deal. Honda, new plant in Alliston. Yet again, we're going to see federal and provincial governments combining tax credits, subsidies, trying to compete with the U.S., making sure we get that industry drawn here. I think this is something to watch. So far, Pierre Poilievre, who, if you're to believe polls, as we're just talking about, will be the next prime minister in a year and a bit. Right. He has been pretty silent. We know in abstract, he slams corporate welfare. He told corporate lobbyists a month or so ago, don't be sending your people to me. I'm not interested in hearing your pleas. I'm for the working man, not for the corner suite fella. And it'll be interesting to see this state interventionist approach. We're going to have a muscular industrial policy. We spend thousands, millions, billions in order to attract business. That does not sound like it's in keeping with Pierre Poilievre's politics and approach, but he hasn't really pronounced himself on it. Right. So is he going to find it harder and harder to remain silent on whether he would match these subsidies, continue these subsidies? Would he advance them and do them again on other opportunities if he becomes prime minister? It's a tension between Trudeau and Poilievre. I think it's increasingly going to become a tension between Ford and Poilievre, because Ford has put all his chips in the middle of the table on this kind of industrial strategy.
Okay, we've got just less than a minute here, Scott, but of course, you know, Police Chief Myron Demkiw asking now for an OPP review in the wake of the officer's actions in the Umar Zimi trial, the not guilty verdict. Also clarifying some comments about the jury. You know, is this enough to calm any kind of political blowback? How do you see this unfolding?
I don't think that the chief is in crisis, but when he sat and writes a statement after a jury has found that Zamir is not guilty, after you know, crime scene reconstruction experts have said this doesn't add up. For him to say, you know what, I think it was the wrong outcome, which is to say that he thinks the just outcome would be that this man be jailed for 20, 25 years. It was a hell of a thing to say. Now, you've got the inquiry. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the police chief is in a tight spot. I think that relations between he and City Hall and the mayor, who is effectively his boss, I got to believe they're a little bit strained. And so I would just say watch this space. I think he has shown not always to have a deft political touch. And I think yesterday was a serious misstep, partly saved by the announcement of this third-party investigation. But I'd keep my eye on that relationship between the chief and the mayor.
Well, he is going to be at the Bolo news conference coming up in 2 hours' time. Says he's going to be there, so we'll see what kind of questions he faces this morning. Then
he's going to be asked if he will recant, and it's going to be damned interesting to see how he handles it.
Okay, Scott, we always appreciate this. Thanks so much. We got to get to headlines. We'll see you next week. Yep, take care. Thank you.